Hey everybody, I'm Rousseau and I do a little work here and there. You are watching Raconteur Weekly, and this week we are scaling more Papercraft. Of course, this time we're doing something a little more difficult, and that is scaling a non-scale model. I found this SD Zaku II on Papercraft Square, and luckily for me, it came with a PDO of the full body, so I was able to scale it. I used a standard Zaku II's height, 17.5 meters, and I just put it in about 6mm scale. That's why the title card says Epic. It's like Epic 40K. So I would say it's 1 to 285. It's probably closer to 1 to 265 or 270. I don't know, I'm not doing all that math in my head. But this is basically what you got. It's all cardstock, no paint except on the base right now. It's a light green cardstock, a dark green cardstock, and a light blue cardstock. I used a little bit of Sharpie to make the black parts because there weren't that many, and to make the islands and some little things that are in the thrusters that you can't really see that well. I have added a little antenna that was in some of the files, and without that antenna, it is right at 3 inches tall. Also of note, there are 7 points of articulation, which you might have noticed from the thumbnail, and that includes the neck, waist, shoulders, hips, and the little shield on his right shoulder. The waist and hip movement are additions that I made, and they could be better, but there are some limitations here, like these hoses, which I've made in 2 parts, but you still have to pull the chest off of the legs if you want to move the thing out of the default position. Still, being able to is nice. And the weapons removable. I've got files for some more weapons, but I just haven't made them yet. Regardless, there's something more interesting about this particular model, and that is the size that it is and the scale that it is. So it's 3 inches tall, and in a 6mm approximate scale. That makes it as tall as a Zaku II would be, like a real one in real life, if that were really a thing. But if you shift to an approximate 28mm scale, something interesting happens, and that is that it ends up being somewhere between 10 and 12 feet tall in scale, which just so happens to be the same height as Glitter Boy power armor and rifts. So, you could, if you so desired, use this in a 28mm game to be like a Hulkbuster armor set, which might be pretty cool. What am I going to use it for? Well, that's anyone's guess. Right now it's just to see how well the whole process goes, which, it went well enough. Some of the parts are really small. That's because it was small before, and I've scaled it down, so I don't know how much smaller it is than the standard size, but, it's smaller now. I guess the only other thing that's really of note would be the base, which is sort of a display stand and which is removable. So it's sort of a hinging mechanism, a bit of a friction fit, but the left foot snaps into these bushes. And from there, you can put the Zaku II in a variety of different poses, which is pretty neat. You probably never need to do it, but you can. Unfortunately, that's all I have to show for the day. I might have more, but I'm just sort of making these things blindly. Suggestions are always welcome, but if I don't get some good ones, then I'll just keep making whatever. So until next time, you've been watching Raconteur Weekly on Rousseau Works, and I am Rousseau, out.